He, picking up from where I left off, he demonstrated more than a passing knowledge of air environmental, especially parachuting. It is possible that D.B. Cooper path may have been crossed that of airline personnel and airline pilots. At some time under another name, he is reported to have bitter hatred for against the airlines. He may have worked for one. For those reasons, Pilot Bulletin is printed specifically as a criminal, as that extorted $200,000 from the Northwest Airline on November 24th, 1971. The FBI sketch and description of the skyjacker follow. Several suspects materialized during the investigations. One very dramatically when on April 7, 1972, a Utah man named Richard Floyd McCoy Jr. parachuted out of the rear exit of the United Airlines 727 on a flight from Denver to Los Angeles with $500,000 strapped to his body. The jacker was arrested and sentenced to 45 years in federal penitentiary. The exclusive McCoy escaped from custody and was killed in 1974 in a gunfight when the FBI attempted to rearrest him. McCoy was an experienced pilot, Green Beret, and a Vietnam veteran. During his hijacking, the Cooper lookalike handed flight attendants a note saying that he had a bomb and was warning no funny stuff. After this, several other copycat hijacking, the Federal Aviation Administration made it a mandatory install on all Boeing 727s while the planes were in flight. This thing that they added on became known as a Cooper vein. In 1972, scanning of all carry-on baggage was mandatory at airports across the country. This did not stop a would-be Seattle hijacker 8 years later from telling the crew that he had a bomb and wanting $100,000 two parachutes. A clever flight attendant drugged the Cooper wannabe with 2 Valiums, after which he let the Portland bomb-bound passenger leave the plane, chained with ransom to a request for a rental car and 3 cheeseburgers, and then gave up. Over the years, many more persons of interest emerged, and untold numbers of ex-husbands and boyfriends' names were given to authorities. A man who killed his mother's wife and 3 children several years as a suspect emerged as a suspect after he was caught and brought to trial in New Jersey in 1990. The suspect, John List, was ruled out later when investigators showed that he most likely was in Denver when the hijacking occurred. On his deathbed in 1994, a Florida man, Duane Weeder, told his wife, Joe, that he was Dan Cooper. Joe had learned after she married Don in 1977 that he had served a prison sentence at McNeil Island Federal Penitentiary in Puget Sound near Tacoma. She said for several odd conversations with her husband over the years, he said he was once hurt his knee in jumping out of an airplane and told her that the common road flares could be put together with clay to resemble a bomb. On a visit to Washington in 1979, Don pointed at an odd logged road north of Columbia River and stated that's where D.B. Cooper came out of the woods. Then in 1994, Joe found an aged plane ticket from Portland to Seattle among her husband's things. The FBI has interviewed Miss Weeder, reviewed Dawn's papers and possessions, and as recent as 2003, asked for the object that might still contain his DNA. In late 1988, at the press conference at a Red Lion Inn in Washington State, Force and a bunch of experts were to examine a dirty scrap of nylon cloth that had some string hanging off of it. The suspected fragment had been found at Columbia River, and it was hoped it could be linked to Dan Cooper. To everyone's disappointment, the hanker-sized white nylon cloth was determined to be from a piece of Cooper's. It was not Cooper's parachute. Following the death of Nebraska Esau Rogers in 2000, her family provided the FBI with a skull that she had kept in a box. She had told her family that she found it in Southwest Washington near the Columbia River in the early 1980s and thought it was Cooper. At the time, she had tried to turn the skull over to authorities, but when nobody would listen to her, she took it home with her to Nebraska. The FBI agents tested the skull and compared the DNA with Cooper's had left behind on his cigarette butts, but could not link the two. Whoever he was, D.B. Cooper became a folk hero, a man who pulled off the only unsolved skyjacking in the United States history with what the FBI now believes was a briefcase full of wires and road flares. The hijacker who jumped from the airplane into a raging storm with 21 pounds of $20 bills strapped to his body has been immortalized in books, movies, and songs. After the incident, some Northwesterners were found wearing T-shirts printed with saying, "D.B. Cooper, where are you?" The FBI spent more money investigating the hijack than the Cooper was paid scrutinizing as many as 10,000 suspects. And IRS agents calculated the Cooper tax bills with penalties as well over $200,000. Globe Indemnity Company, the insurance agency that paid the claim, would probably sue him to recover the funds. Federal law provided for a 5-year statute of limitations on aircraft piracy. However, the U.S. Code of Cold Case Law also states no statute that limitation shall extend to any persons fleeing for justice. With no statute of limitations on his acts, the air piracy and escape from justice, Cooper could still be sent to prison were he ever to be found. FBI agents Ralph Hinzenberg, an investigator in the case until 1980 when he retired, gave the option, and Cooper was a very likely ex-con who was going to make one last desperate go for the big one. If he made it, fine. If not, he probably felt he had very little to lose. Believed that Cooper died in the windy Southwest Washington, probably near Lake Merwin, after jumping from the airplane. Cooper had dived into freezing rain and sub-zero temperatures. Fierce winds would have immediately blown the loafers off his feet. Still, the retired investigator was willing to admit we have to accept the possibility that we will never know. I guess we can live with that if we have to. Ingram discovery was made just 2 weeks before the Portland agent retired. Of that, he told the press, "It's ironic, isn't it? The first and only concrete bit of information comes only 17 days before I retire." For his part, the investigation, Ingram got a $2,760 reward, $300 for the reward consists of 15 of the original $20 bills paid Cooper as a ransom. Ingram bought a VCR and a motorcycle for himself. The balance went into a college fund at the local bank. So yeah, that was D.B. Cooper. Where are you? All rights for this story go to fine makers of this book, The Myths and Mysteries of Washington, written by L.E. Bragg. Yes, nice story. Anyway, that's it. Have a good day. Bye.